So I recently just hit my 3 years of training anniversary. I thought it would be kind of cool to celebrate that by looking back at the past 3 years and showing sort of where I started, what I've been through these past 3 years, and where I'm at now.
My body and me have quite a history. It goes all the way back to my childhood, but for this, I'm going to start quite a bit later. I started working out towards the beginning of 2016. Something felt wrong in my body and my mind. I looked deep within myself and realized what I was experiencing was gender dysphoria, and the more I expressed my masculinity, the better I felt. I explored my gender expression in different ways and continued to work out, building my body. Spending time on my body helped me understand what I was going through. Although it was scary realizing that I was transgender, it was a relief to know that I could do something to help with my dysphoria. I continued to work out knowing that I was paving the way for who I would eventually become. By the end of 2016, I knew without a doubt that I wanted to start testosterone and begin my transition. In the beginning of 2017, I was desperate to start my transition. I felt so uncomfortable with my chest. The person I saw in the mirror didn't reflect who I felt I was. I longed to be on the way to my true self. Before starting hormones, all I could do to feel better was work out. I couldn't change my voice or grow facial hair yet, but I could do something to prepare my body for what was ahead, and that helped me feel like I was actively transitioning. By the end of January, I had an appointment to get on T. I had made changes to my body, but now the changes I'd been waiting almost a year for would finally start. It was time. I felt so ready and was exhausted from living life in a gender limbo. On February 20th, 2017, I started testosterone. I knew the early stages of transition would be hard. I binded my chest daily and did what I could to express my gender identity. It was hard at that stage to be in the gym, but working out gave me confidence and helped me feel hopeful. I focused on growing the new me underneath, the me that would eventually appear. When I worked out, I envisioned the dream chest that I would someday have. I knew I wanted top surgery and that I could prepare for it by training my chest and building it up. There were a lot of times that I wanted to just hide, but I knew that this state of my body was only temporary. Knowing that motivated me and fueled my training. As I saw more changes to my appearance, I knew that I was doing all I could to feel my best. It was hard feeling like an adult man on the inside and looking like an androgynous teenager on the outside. But eventually, I came out and started living full-time as River. My transition began to feel more real, and I started planning for what was ahead. Top surgery started to become a reality instead of a dream. Although my chest was changing, I knew I would need surgery to feel whole. The thought of being free of binders and being comfortable in my own skin kept me from being scared. I imagined really seeing myself for the first time, feeling no shame in my body. When I was at the gym, each time I lifted, I knew I was doing something to help care for myself, to nurture that future body. Suddenly, months became weeks, and I was closer and closer to surgery. I worked out hard up until a few weeks before my surgery date. This would be the last time I ever wore a sports bra. I had trained in this one for almost 2 years. A few days later, I would fly out to Miami and finally be free. I wasn't scared. Instead, I just felt so grateful. I woke up from surgery immediately feeling relieved. Even with all the bandages on, I could feel my chest underneath. It was flat and it was mine. I remember envisioning my future as hopeful after that. I wanted to be in the world I could see myself living. I was post-op. I was free. I spent January of 2018 healing and recovering. My chest was brand new and I couldn't train or do much physical activity. But I knew that I'd be in the gym again soon and would get to see the muscles that I'd been building all this time. I was full on training again in February, 9 weeks after surgery. In a few short weeks, I was feeling strong again. By summertime, I felt confident being shirtless. I cared for my scars with coconut oil and didn't experience any pain from stretching. My body took some time to adjust, but eventually I started to fill out again. It was really motivating to see roundness in my pecs. My chest was a work in progress, but I was already so much happier than prior to surgery. I spent that summer shirtless in the sun and loved feeling the air on my skin. My strength improved and I picked up the dumbbells at the far end of the rack, a weight that when I first started lifting seemed so impossible and out of reach. Seeing my chest in t-shirts filled me with gratitude. Before the year was through, I was completely healed and feeling great. I couldn't believe how far I'd come in one short year. As 2018 came to a close, I had all the hardest parts of my transition behind me. It was time to focus on my bodybuilding in a new light and continue towards the physique that I had set out to build. This year I set intentions to get big and bulk with no interruptions. Many of my training principles remain the same as when I started, but I am always looking for ways to improve and grow. It's still hard not to compare myself to cisgender men, and I often need to remind myself where I started. I was a beginner once, someone who never really worked out, but I aspired to be someone who took care of themselves and built themselves up. I've completed 3 years of training. I have the chest I always dreamed of, and I'm recognized as the man I knew I was inside. But I never would have got here if I didn't start training. It helped me connect with my body and hear the voice in my heart. When things get hard and I get down on myself, I look back at myself when I first started, and I remember not to let that brave person down. I showed up when it was uncomfortable because I knew that one day I wouldn't have to feel that way. When I first started, I dedicated myself to 5 years of training before I would ever even think of quitting. I'm 3 years in, with 2 to go.
I have no intentions of stopping. Bodybuilding has really shaped who I am today. Like, training means a great deal to me because I've learned so much about myself through the process, and I've been able to really mentally and spiritually heal myself through lifting. So it goes way beyond my body. Like, the changes in my mind are always what, to me, feels like the real gift of all of the hours I've put into training. I made this video because I needed to look back. I needed to take a second and remind myself where I started. And I have to do that every so often because there are times, sometimes a week at a time, where I just kind of feel down on myself, or I feel like I'm not really progressing at the rate that I wish I was, or that my goals are crazy and I'll never accomplish them. But when I step back and I take a second to reflect and I see my actual journey, I'm always shocked. Transformation is a big word. I think it gets thrown around a lot, but when you dedicate quite a bit of time to making a change in your life, it really is a transformation. Like 2016, 3 years ago, that seems like a lifetime ago. I was a completely different person in terms of how I felt about myself and how I carried myself. I think it always helps to look back, like, look where you started, look why you started something. Why did you even start? What was the goal? So I look back at me, 2016, never really working out consistently, definitely not a lifter, but I somehow found within my head that, I wanted to really commit myself to something, and I did it, and I started, and if it weren't for me then, I wouldn't be here now. So thanks for looking back with me. Thanks for celebrating this milestone. 3 years in, 2 to go to hit my big 5-year goals. Thanks for watching, and for anyone out there who is starting to tackle a huge goal, just keep going, just start, remember why, remember your reason, and eventually, step by step, you get there. Thanks for the love and support. I'll talk to you soon.